lovelies, it's your old pal and Lord Commander of the Holy Order of St. Leland, Arch-Paladin of Peacehaven, Edenbridge and Rawmarsh. Or, Hoe Slapper for short. It's really quite unfortunate, isn't it? The Fragnostic, shepherding you into the hard-earned glories of the weekend with another Retro Rumble. This week on Retro Rumble, the mouthy younger brother of Ghosts and Goblins got wind of the arse-kicking we laid down on his sibling, and is coming at us, knives out, mouth frothing with rage rabies, if you will, for a little family vengeance here in the direct sequel to one of the toughest goddamn games ever made, Ghouls and Ghosts. They make a Mora, or Great World Demon Village in Japan, developed and published by Capcom and released into arcades everywhere in the December of 1988. With various ports to home consoles and computer platforms following over the next couple of years. Straight into stage 1, we skedaddle, straight into the execution place, or the Hill of Torture, as it is sometimes known to enthusiasts of the practice that are bad at it and apparently think decapitating somebody with a guillotine is a sound method for getting a confession out of them. The Demon Realm's first line of defense here includes skeleton murderers, or Grim Reapers, your replacements for the zombies from Ghosts and Goblins. There, you ever wonder how death gets around to collecting so many souls per day? That's your answer. There's more than one of him. He's like Santa. He's got store brand helpers and body doubles to share the workload and deter assassination attempts. Behind them, you got the Vultures. Solid idea to kill as many of them while they're perched on their trees as you can manage, due to anything that can fly in this game being a massive flapping dickache. And of course the poisonous flowers that grow in high places and endlessly hack up salvos of skulls, which really gives this place quite the atmosphere, doesn't it? The symbiosis of nature in full majestic swing there. Bit of a missell from the original Japanese title of Man-Eating Flower, as they won't actually poison you, but, you know, they'll slap your armor off you just the same as anything else. What? I'm starting to think maybe Arthur's problem isn't the armor itself, but that he isn't strapping himself into it right. Dude needs a fucking squire. Wouldn't need to keep him alive forever, you know, just long enough until we find an armor upgrade. Then we can feed him to the Red Arama as a distraction. Just down this ravine is Ghouls and Ghosts' first boss, the Shielder, aka the Statue of Terror. Immediately continues the franchise theme of haha, you're fucked now, by yanking off his own damn head and chasing you across the screen while he uses it as a flame cannon, but I think perhaps his most hideous feature is the atrocious blonde hockey mullet. He's now just as exploded and dead as the rest of him. Much more creative boss design here in Ghouls and Ghosts. Capcom have moved on somewhat from vaguely evil-shaped cluster of randomized projectiles and bullshit and into slightly more traditional territory. Into the Village of Decay we go. Enjoy the decor while you can. This shithole's gonna burn to the ground in a couple of minutes. Now, last time we left our stumpy little underwear model Arthur, he was in a pretty good place. Princess Prim was safe and well after you'd beaten her kidnapper Astaroth into shitpaste with your shield, or your cross if you were playing the Japanese version. No religious imagery for us over here in the West, thank you very much. They don't care in Japan, do they? Shinto heretics! And I mean, that was really my favourite implication in Ghosts and Goblins, really. One of my favourite implications in any video game was that once you got to the second run through, Arthur just lost his mind, tossed his lance in a bush, and started literally beating everything to death with his shield. No clean, heroic, honourable deaths befitting of a knight of the realm for anything anymore. That time has passed. Now every single one of you supernatural motherfuckers dies slow, via repeated strikes to the head and neck with a large sheet of metal. That little bastard Satan flapping about in the air, dodging your lance strikes. Not this time, you son of a bitch. Jump 10 feet off the goddamn ground and smash his teeth out of his face with your shield. Ah, what? What the fuck? Get him in the liver with a pointy end as he crashes to the ground, edging away from you as you walk him down, shield raised above your head with both hands. Arthur, please, I'll go and get the princess. I'll get her right now. But Arthur's fevered mind is long past the ability to converse in any language besides a very specific dialect of blunt force trauma delivered via a heavy lump of steel and only the death rattle of this pitiful creature can quiet his rage. Later, when all the blood is shed and the kingdom is an abattoir of demonic meat, Arthur will discover during his attempts to make celebratory love to Princess Prin that he can no longer climax without striking her violently in the face. The two eventually take separate rooms, the princess at the top of the highest tower, the farthest point from Arthur's quarters in the dungeons, where he can often be found hate-fucking a pig carcass and screaming at his own reflection in the puddles. They left all this out of the US version, of course, because censorship, right? What are you gonna do? Can't have a bit of blood, can't have a bit of nudity, can't even have a tasteful depiction of a man sharing the most natural of acts with livestock corpses. Thanks for wrapping us all in cotton wool there, Capcom, you nanny state Nazis. But aside from the complete and utter psychological breakdown, Arthur was doing just swell. But of course, what you should be doing immediately after repulsing a mass demonic attack on your kingdom is packing up all your shit in a bundle and moving far, far away. Take the night, you know, revel, drink, feast. You're alive, you did it. Most of the people you care about weren't horribly devoured. Yay! Then the next morning, get everything you own, stick it on the horse and cart and run for your fucking lives, because if your kingdom's been attacked once, it will happen again. Always, without exception, and it will be so much worse the second time, and the third time, and the time after that. Leave. But, much like the inhabitants of the majority of other fictional universes, the good people of the Ghosts and Goblins verse lack the gift of foresight, so they stay right where they are, and bing bang, the devil's your bloody uncle. 3 years after the original attack, the demon realm invades again, and this time, they have the actual fucking devil leading them, the Lucifer. Not some purple-bearded turd in a dressing gown, so straight off the bat, you got that going against you. And you know the caliber of command is higher this time around because the battle plan is way better too. They're not just gonna kidnap a princess, like, honestly, what was that ever gonna achieve? What you gonna do? You're gonna ransom her? Heating bills gone up, have they? Astaroth need a sack of gold to get the bastards at Halifax off his back? I tell you miss one payment and all of a sudden there's letters, there's phone calls dragging you out the bath. What the fuck? You're gonna marry her? Is that the scheme? You're gonna marry her so you're next in line for the throne? Like the Pope wouldn't annul that shit. Louis VII got his marriage annulled because his wife was his distant cousin. And then he went and married a closer one anyway, so the Pope's gonna take one look at a princess tied in a knot with a demon king and go, yeah, no, this... Jesus wouldn't have this, would he? I'm not signing off on that one. But Lucifer's plan is a lot more absolute. He's just swung by and hoovered the souls out of every sorry son of a bitch living in the entire kingdom, Prin included. I mean, after this game, in the next installment, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, some dickhead called Samael's calling the shots, and he goes right back to just capturing the princess. They wouldn't actually come up with a reason for this up until Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins came out on the PSP, and all the kidnappings were revealed to be attempts to mix her royal blood with that of a demon's to somehow give the demonic realm control of the earth, but I don't know, I guess that particular ritual must take a long goddamn time because they never seem to be able to get their shit together in time to actually pull it off. Even with 3 years between attacks to prepare, you know, they're not the most proactive of infernal beings. Fuck me, the final boss in this game you fight while he's sitting down. You can't even be asked to get up to attack the one guy that's been single-handedly carving a path through his entire army. Here's one of the more novel bosses of the series coming up, the Om, which seems to be either part of a giant worm or some kind of decomposing hill giant penis, I'm not entirely sure. In any case, host of maggots and other such parasites have set up shop inside of it and will attempt to swarm you while you're taking aim at the row of glowing hearts beating along the bottom of it. I'm pretty sure this fight is meant to be a lot more challenging than it actually is. Like the game intends for you to only be able to reach the hearts by standing directly on top of them and hurling your lances, knives or whatever else downwards while you're continually being mugged off by maggots, but only suckers do it that way. All but one of the bosses in Ghouls and Ghosts are nowhere near as brutal as their cousins back in the first game. And we'll deal with his bullshit at the end of this. Stage 5, Lucifer's Castle. They saved all the red aromas up for this sucker. Here's how we tell them to fuck off. Ah! Nowhere to go now, have you? You great flapping dickhead. Even without that, though. Here, let me show you something before I start deconstructing Ghouls and Ghosts properly here. This'll make my point for me nicely. You remember how aggressive the red aromas were in the first game? How much of a pain in the fucking... Look at them here. Watch. They want absolutely nothing to do with you, do they? Look at them. Oh shit, you go first. No, you. Oh, he's so scary. What the fuck? The only way you can seem to get them to grow a pair and come at you here is if you hop on and off a ladder, which kickstarts some sort of behavioural routine they can't cancel where they figure you can't do shit to them because you're on a ladder, but mercy me. These are supposed to be red aroma kings as well, the greatest and most noble of their kind. What a joke. And I mean, this is quite widely regarded as being a much tougher game than the original Ghosts and Goblins, which has forever mystified me because there is just no element of this that is anywhere near as difficult. This might even be the hardest part of the entire thing, right here, this little climb up the booby-trapped tower. Here, you wonder what happened to Astaroth, look. Demoted! Haha! Sub-boss, mid-level challenge. You ain't shit anymore, fucklump. Go back to hell. Put some bloody pants on. Fuck is wrong with you? Here's a pair of shielders from the first stage. Well, part of them anyway. They're not quite the threats they originally were without any legs to chase you around with. This whole stage hook is a throwback to the first game stage 5 where you had to refight all the bosses on your way through. My god, that was a fucking nightmare. Oh look, he's back. He's brought the only person that will talk to him anymore. Himself. You're no longer relevant. Go away. Trio of these eyeball clouds, Gasutos or Mistral winds to take out before we cross paths with Beelzebub now. They take forever to actually try and attack you, these things. Probably because clouds are hard to see through, and their entire hook is that they're just one gigantic eyeball trapped inside of one, so... Sucks to be you, iCloud. Useless. Apple are really missing Steve Jobs and his ability to steal other people's ideas, aren't they? Move, goddammit! Really? Oh, fuck it, the axe is alright for this fight, it's not that bad. The flies! The flies! Either somebody has just dropped an absolute face melter of a shit, or that son of a bitch Beelzebub is on his way to ruin your fucking day. The worst thing about this buzzy little bastard is that whenever he transforms back into a swarm of bugs to move around the screen, he doesn't seem to have any pattern whatsoever. Never been able to figure out if you can influence where he ends up, but sometimes he will just plow straight through the middle of you, and there is no way to avoid it. The best chance you can give yourself is to be as far away from him as possible when he starts to turn. And you see right there, he almost had me. Corners aren't automatic safe zones. Beelzebub's not against flying through them either. Yeah, burn fly. The fuck, God? Where have you been for the past quarter of an hour? Alright, I'm sure I don't need to tell you what happens next, do I? Arthur, you've done well so far, but you will not be Albie to defeat Lucifer, who's behind the door. Go back to the village and get the magic power from the goddess of battle. You're joking. Can you not just give her a shout yourself, like, putting a good word in that? I'm sure... Hey, get back here, you... Arthur, put on your magic armor and open the magic box. I'm sure that the goddess will appear. Good luck, Arthur. I believe that you will defeat Lucifer. Well, it's better than this room is an illusion and is a trap deposit by Satan, I guess. Barely. So yes, just like in the first game and every mainline game after it, you now have to play the entire thing over again on a tougher difficulty, using a weapon with next to no range on it. Except the obscure one that come out for the Wonder Swan. You only had to beat that once through, I think. That was a nice surprise. Fucking axe. Oh shit. Yeah, you can get turned into a duck by evil magicians. Did I not mention? It's only temporary, thank goodness. Imagine that shit. Arthur, you have done well, but I'm afraid you can only enter Lucifer's chamber in the form of one of the least combat-effective birds ever to tread the earth, the common duck. There she is. Where were you the first time through this dive? Never mind, just give me a stupid weapon, go away. Here we are then, the Psycho Cannon. You thought it'd have some heavenly sounding flowery name instead of sounding like something you'd expect to see Dr. fucking Doom piloting towards New York? Think again. This is essentially the shield from Ghosts and Goblins with a couple of positive tweaks. It is intensely powerful despite its range, and its already outlandish damage potential is increased even further at point blank range. Now, you won't really notice that on much besides the second run of boss fights though, seeing as it will wipe most of your enemies out in one blow wherever you fire it from. Only downside is that you don't get any super magic for it, which I haven't explained at all yet. Jesus Christ, I haven't explained anything at all, have I? We're having one of those days. Did so well in Jack in the Dark as well, barely rambled at all. Alright, well, Ghouls and Ghosts presents you a greatly expanded range of offensive and defensive opportunities over Ghosts and Goblins. For starters, you can now throw most of your weapons up and down in midair, some of which return from the previous game. The lance, the dagger, the axe, and an altered version of the torch, the firewater, which you'd think would be a non-offensive localization of holy water like back in the early Castlevania games, but was actually called napalm in the Japanese version, so, you know, unless Jesus sweats napalm, he doesn't, does he? I know there's a bunch of deleted Bible stories locked up underneath the Vatican. Any Jesus/Predator crossover stuff where he burns down the jungle by bleeding napalm all over it? I think the time has come for Pope Francis to give the people the Jesus versus Predator tale that they need. Or at least acknowledge my emails about it. There's a couple of new additions to the Arsenal 2 in the sword, which you can't actually throw or do anything with besides fight enemies at close range, thereby making it utterly wank and nothing more than an elaborate pen with which to write your own suicide note, as well as the much more enjoyable discus, which you can fling straight along the ground without it crashing into any stray bumps or rocks in the terrain. And most useful of all, however, is Arthur's spiffy new golden armour that allows him to charge up and use powerful magic attacks, a different one for each weapon. Surprise, shitface! Now you've already seen a couple here. The standard lance grants you a lightning attack that splits out in 3 directions at once, and the dagger creates a duplicate of yourself that is great fun to troll those bastard red Aramas with. But there's also exploding fire magic to be found with the axe, and a mirror that you can summon if you're holding the discus that will protect you from monsters like a shield. Now the firewater has a decent fireball whirlpool spell, but when you get to the sword, the most god-awful piece of shite in the game, you get an anti-air attack called the Thunder Dragon that will basically one-shot anything floating around in the sky, including bosses. So if by the pure and unbridled grace of God you actually manage to get to the end of stage 5 with the useless fucking thing, you can wipe out Beelzebub the second he materializes out of his bog cloud. Decent reward, but as you saw, I'm generally uncomfortable using anything except the dagger, which is by far the most effective weapon you can have overall. Not the most powerful, but just like the first game, the sheer number of the damn things you can have on screen simultaneously more than makes up for that. Stage 3 already. We're making solid time here. That Psycho Cannon sure gives these bosses about a sneeze's worth of time to say their fucking prayers, doesn't it? Just one more reason that Ghouls and Ghosts is undeniably far easier than its predecessor. Far. I guess maybe the first stage in this is a tiny bit tougher than the first stage in Ghosts and Goblins, but that's it, honestly. There are slightly more enemies on screen at any one time, but they're generally much less annoying and erratic. If you remember my playthrough of the first game, you'll probably also remember the plagues of blue killers, woody pigs, petite devils and bats that made you think twice about jumping anywhere that are absent in this one. So yes, monsters everywhere here, and their respawn rate is still bordering on ludicrous if you stand still for too long or backtrack. but they're all far easier to deal with, especially on your second run. I'm genuinely convinced that when gamers say that Ghouls and Ghosts is the tougher game, they're actually referring to Super Ghouls and Ghosts for the Super NES, which is indeed a very difficult undertaking. It's still no Ghosts and Goblins, but it's a much closer tie than this one. Super Ghouls and Ghosts is still one of GameKind's great fallacies. I think more than 25 years after its release, so many people think it's a straight port of Ghouls and Ghosts like the Genesis got, but it is an entirely different game. I guess you can blame Capcom refusing to advance the title pattern for that one if you like. You started with Ghosts and Goblins, moved on to Ghouls and Ghosts, so by rights shouldn't the next one be, I don't know, Gorgons and Ghouls, Gremlins and Griffins, Gibbons and Galapagos Island Penguins? One of the little quirks I love about this game is in the soundtrack, which I guess you're having a hard time hearing on account of my yammering, but whenever you reach the boss of a stage, their individual themes are all incredibly fucked up reprises of the music that's been playing throughout the level. Ah shit, you got me again! Mother Ducker! Trying to wipe some of these magicians out before they can scream Malardus Retardus at you and turn you into a useless terrified bird is next to impossible with a range on the Psycho Cannon. One thing I'd have to get hit to show you actually is the duck isn't the only thing that you can get turned into. If you're not wearing any armor when the spell tags you, you'll get turned into a crotchety old pensioner instead. Man, I wish I could show you, but I don't want to get hit. And before you start, technically, getting turned into a duck doesn't count because I didn't take any damage, so shut your pie basket. I am working on something that should be ready for next week actually, a new layout for the screen here that will allow me to put a separate, smaller screen in the bottom right to show you additional footage and pictures of anything I talk about that's worth illustrating. It won't overlap the game, I won't have to make the actual gameplay any smaller, it'll just move over way to the left, and I know I'm making it sound like an utter fucking mess, and you're going, no, Fraggers, leave it alone. But you'll see, honestly, you'll be bang into it. And if you're not, tell me, and I'll just pretend I didn't like it in the first place either to hide my crushing sadness like I did with the whole face cam thing. We can go back to normal. Because you're all afraid of change. You're just blind to the brilliance of my ideas. Look at this. Psycho Cannon's got a stubby little reach. But not stubby enough that I can't bullshit another cheap victory out of here. Just about. There we go. I'll never fight you properly, My sense of shame disappeared long ago. Around the time I got ulcerative colitis, actually. Continually excusing yourself to go and shit blood into a stranger's toilet has a remarkable way of dampening your need for their approval, let me tell you. Can't recommend it enough. Apart from the whole shitting blood thing, that's not healthy. Try and skip that part, if you can. So, Ghouls and Ghosts actually had a couple of excellent ports going for it. Now, I never played this in the arcades when it was first out myself, but there was a near arcade perfect version that came out on the Sharp 68000, closely followed by one on the PCE Super Graphics. But I think the port that everybody played at least once was the one on the Genesis, which made some very smart decisions on which graphical concessions to make, mostly background detail and other superfluous elements, in order to deliver an incredibly solid, responsive replication of the arcade experience. Really, one of the first times as a home console gamer that I felt we were anywhere near owning the kind of seductive, flashy brilliance you could only find devouring your loose change down at the seafront. But the Genesis version wasn't the first one I actually owned. That honour goes to the Sega Master System port, a machine that was obviously nowhere near capable of translating this kind of game faithfully, but did make some pretty awesome adjustments in the hope that you wouldn't be too disappointed with its shortcomings. And those shortcomings start with the cover art. Believe me, the cover art for the Master System release of Ghouls and Ghosts is exactly the sort of thing I want a little screen in the corner for to show you in these videos. It is legendarily awful. It could not be anything except intentionally bad, I swear to you. It's the kind of mournful botched job that you would slap your child for bringing home from nursery. Or the sort of shit you see on those pages that shame terrible tattoo artists, you know? But if you can get past that, the game itself is a great little effort. All the stages are in there, all the bosses are in there, no cuts. It's amazing that they managed to fit it all on the cartridge. And not only that, but there's an entire new upgrade system where you'd start with a basic silver suit of armor and then use shops to buy better boots, plates and helmets that give you more hit points, allowed you to move faster and jump further, gave you extra magic spells that run off their own MP meter. That game was a perfect example of why we used to sit on the floor 5 inches from the TV to play them back in those days too. Because whenever you want to select something in the shot, you had to use the pause button. No pause button on the Master System controller there though, champ. It was on the fucking console. So unless you wanted to get off your ass and walk over to the bloody thing every time you bought something, on the floor next to the Master System you would sit. Buzz off, ass thing. Alright, are you ready for a truly pathetic final boss? Look at this lazy bastard. Look at him, he's even cut a hole in the seat to dangle his devil balls in so he doesn't have to get dressed in the mornings or move to take a shit. Can't hit you from here, can't do a damn thing to you, and there. What an absolute joke. Here, a bird brings your girlfriend back from the sky? Oops, nearly forgot her soul. There you go. Can't do nothing with a dead body, can you? Oh, bird. Fly away while you still have your innocence. And congratulations, all is well again. Unless you're illiterate, because here comes the mother of all ending text crawls. Lucifer restored the ghouls and GHOULS world, which had vanished 3 years ago. Arthur has finally defeated Lucifer, who was enjoying the reputation of the strongest in the world. Arthur had known at the time when he defeated the demon that the ghouls and ghosts, you got it right there, didn't you, world would be restored someday. He prepared for the enemy by improving weapons and giving magic power to each weapon. If it had not been for the magic power, even Arthur could have been defeated long before he reached Lucifer. On top of the magic, you spell it right twice already. Magic power, Arthur obtained the Psycho Cannon from St. Michael. Then after a dreadful battle, he finally defeated Lucifer. People's souls, which had been caplured in Lucifer's body, were released, and the Princess of Hos was revived. The earth has been restored to its peaceful self, thanks to Knight Arthur. However, there is no reason the ghouls and ghosts world will not be restored by someone someday. Is Arthur's battle truly over? Well, it's not often you get the entire story at the end of the game now, is it? But just in case you were scratching your head right the way through thinking, what the hell was Arthur doing for 3 years? But then if you care that much, you're probably also frothing at the mouth, wondering who the fuck St. Michael and the Princess of Hos are, and which dreadful battle with Lucifer the game's referring to. Unless it means dreadful in the strictest definition, you know, as in a battle of low or non-existent quality. Don't stand there, you clown! Fuck, they were right on top of him. The bastard AI is cheating. If that were me, I'd be right in that flaming pit, I would. Alright, well, make sure you're back next week, lovelies. It's great to know that I've got the time to knock out a few of these retro titles a week now, between this and Sanctuary Sunday. Hell of a weekend coming up for you. The long-awaited first installment of my Dino Crisis playthrough. Sonic the Hedgehog gets us restarted on Sanctuary Sunday. And as for Retro Rumble, game I've been looking forward to walking you through for God knows how long now. One of the weirdest fucking titles in the NES library. It can only be the ludicrous mind-buggery that is Monster Party. I'll stick around until the very end with you. Imagine me, if you will, as the surly-looking cinema attendant stood at the back of the screen during the credits, waiting for you to fuck off so I can sweep your goddamn mess up for the next colony of monkeys to come shrieking in to Look! They're going straight through him! Bullshit, I say. Trickery, flam, and flimsure. Those flies would have crashed into him like some sort of disgusting typhoid-carrying truck if it stood that close as well. To see this after you've probably spent a good chunk of your pay packet trying to beat it for the first time is nothing short of an insult. There she is. 83-inch bust to 50-inch waist. What's that, about a D cup? Oh yeah, Crusaders, you'll learn all this shit when your missus sends you out to get her some new underwear after she's pushed out 2 of your kids as well. Oh, you'll learn. You'll know what it is to awkwardly discuss this crap with sales assistants. The end? It sure is for me. Catch you tomorrow, lovelies.